Welcome, dogs. Get your goggles, get your tightest like a tri-suit, put on those compression socks. Why be good at one sport if you can be shit at three? This is the Triathlon Mockery Podcast. Yes, my dogs, welcome to a brand new episode. And instead of with Joe Skipper, I'm in Frankfurt right now. And yesterday morning I went down to the lobby and I bumped into Sebastian Kienle. He's a former world champion in 2014. He's a two-time 70.3 world champion, multiple Ironman achievements, and two-time world champion podium, right? Retired in 2023, and now, I saw him in the lobby, and I was really curious, like, how is life after triathlon? But first, we met up yesterday in the lobby for a High Rocks. That's your new journey.
Yeah, I was quite surprised to see you here, to be honest. I thought you're filming Joe Skipper, and he retired after a very disappointing season for him probably, and is now also fully invested into IROX. I mean, there's quite some washed out triathletes now doing IROX.
There is, because yesterday also Andy Dright, another one of the older German triathletes, Franz Luske, he retired and is getting into High Rocks. But is it because triathletes want to find a new challenging journey after sports?
Yeah, I think it's for a lot of reasons. The founder of High Rocks himself, Mo Fürste, he had a very good saying. He said, as a professional athlete, you die twice. And the first time you die is when you retire from your sport. Mm-hmm. And in some way I think he's right, you know. I mean, for me, being a professional triathlete for more than 20 years, I would say, and being a triathlete for 30 years, you always wake up with the reason, with a purpose, you know, like, you know what your goal is. Life is like pretty simple, to speak so. I mean, the micromanagement is complicated, but the overall picture is like pretty simple. It's like super, super nice and easy, right? You can always decide whether it's helping your sport or not, and then you say yes or no. Mm-hmm. If it's helping you to get to where you want to go. So if you don't have that anymore, life becomes very difficult and different, and you have to. Yeah, it's just getting more complicated, I think.
And that's the point that you decide as a professional athlete to retire? Is that what you're referring to, or?
Oh, no. I mean, why I retire from the sport is something completely different. I mean, I love the sport, and I still do. Why I retired is more. There's a lot of like different reasons to it. One of them is like, I realized I'm fighting windmills, so to speak, as I constantly had some niggles, you know, Achilles problems and so on, and you realize all these young dogs, they're gonna up the game, and they have some sharp teeth, so, and you realize you can't really do what's necessary anymore, and that's very frustrating, you know. I mean, when you think like, if I could only do this and that, and then I would be up there, but you're so far off doing it, that's one of the things that really frustrates you. And then you always have the idea you're basically indestructible, right? But when you wake up in the morning and you barely can limp to the toilet, you don't really feel that indestructible, to be honest. And then obviously at one point, just mentally, I was about to burn out. I mean, it's not that I didn't like it anymore, but when we went up here, you said it takes a lot to get you excited, and for me it was the same thing. Like, usually in the middle of my career, you know, Ironman race day, I don't even need an alarm. Like, I woke up basically on the minute where I had to wake up, and I'm like, you could put me on the start line right away. Like, I was wide awake. I was like, fuck, let's go!
Yeah.
And towards the end of the career, it wasn't like that anymore. You know, you wake up in the morning, you're like,
it's draggy.
it's going
But
on.
at what point?
Sets 3 alarms, and you just sometimes I just didn't want to be there anymore. You know, I was like, fuck, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this.
They say
it's
that
gonna be pain and.
They say that finding a right moment at some point and really keeping your word, like finding a moment to retire, is the hardest thing, because a lot of triathletes don't have a purpose after their professional career, or they find it really scary what to do. How did you find that moment then, that you thought, this is right for me and I've also got something planned for after? Or
no plans, no real plans for after, but I definitely knew like the way I wanted to retire, and I'm super happy that I was able to do it that way. I think I was like pretty early with announcing that I'm gonna retire, and that always also gave me the last push mentally. Like when you know, in our sport, you constantly fool yourself, right? You tell yourself the last rep. But it's not. Like, there's another set tomorrow, you know, and then there's one next week, and then there's one next month, and so on, and it keeps going. Versus when you really know, like, okay, now I have 2 years, and I think I announced my retirement 2 years prior to my actual retirement.
yeah,
that helps you mentally, because then you really know, okay, now there's a finish line. There's a finish line to your career, and there's just 150 more swim sets you have to do in, I don't know, in the next 6 months.
But actually, if you think like that, it's already due date, right? You think, oh, I've only got 150 swim sets. That.
Yeah, I know.
It's
I knew.
But
then you make them count, because you know it's really, you're not fooling yourself anymore. It's really a finish line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the hardest part is just for. And I think that's for someone who's got a job and a family and doesn't have the pro mindset. The hardest thing to understand is that you need to be consistent in giving everything up for the sport, not just for a year, but for 10, 15, and in your case, 20 plus years. And that is just really outstanding, you know, that it's just so hard that maybe also mentally, like maybe you've seen stuff like, oh, I would like to give that a go, or I would like to go skiing and winter sports, and you've never been able to do that. And now that's maybe something you can pick up.
Funny thing is, I never had that, to be honest.
Yeah, but that's why you have probably the mindset. And if you do have that, then it's harder to, I'm racing with the pro license, but I'm not a professional like you. And this is the difference in mindset, because that is the thing I'm struggling with.
Yeah.
But for you, it's not even a problem.
No, for me, it's actually, now it's the other way around. Now I have all the options, and then it's very difficult to not just keep going with the same mindset, which would be like super stupid, you know? I mean, I could put myself in like fully into the Hyrox bubble and tell everybody, now I'm gonna be a Hyrox pro, and just keep continuing with the same thing. That would be the easiest for me mentally, honestly. Like waking up and the only purpose is like get fitter and faster today in that one thing.
Yeah.
But I think that's just not a good idea. I mean, actually it's a privilege to have a life like I did, or like I do, where you have basically 2 in 1, right? I mean, you have this first part of your life where it's all about the sport and all about pursuing your dreams in the sport, and the second part can be something completely different. Mm-hmm. So do you want to do the same shit all over again and be age group world champion, age group 65 in Hyrox?
I don't know. I mean, it's.
I mean, I love to think like that some days, and then on other days I'm like, no way. I mean, I'm very happy that I don't have to do this for a living anymore.
But you still have, once you were, had a pro sport mentality, you will always take it with you, whether you're playing board games or you're playing footballs with a kid. You're like, I'm going to annihilate and teach you that winning doesn't come easy. But the same, do you find the same now in High Rocks? So I saw you competing yesterday. It's called High Rocks Pro Weight. So for people that don't understand what a High Rocks is, it's actually 8 by 1K, and then in between the kilometers you're doing like an exercise, for example, rowing or wall balls or very heavy farmer carriers. It's a combination of strength and endurance. Do you find it hard then to compete in a field where you know that you're going to be in the middle, or like that you struggle to compete for the win?
That's the interesting thing. It's like I'm sort of like a bipolar person there. So one day I wake up and I have the exact same mindset I was approaching pro triathlon, like think about every little fucking detail in High Rocks, like getting liquid chalk, like going to my
liquid chalk?
Yeah, for your hands to carry the farmers, the kettlebells easier. Thinking about getting a different sole to my carbon fiber shoes with more grip, like get them custom made for like $400.
So you're really already in the 1%ers.
Yeah. Like full on, like improving everything. Like my home gym is basically like a full stacked High Rocks gym.
Really?
Yeah, I have everything there, basically. I mean, even a sled, like, there's everything there. Yeah. So that's one, I wake up like this on a one day. And then, for example, leading up to this week's race, I was constantly telling myself, man, it's just your hobby. Just relax, man. It doesn't really matter. But then I'm getting like really unhappy with the result. Because there was no fight in the dog, and I mean, that's the thing, like, I don't know myself like that. I don't know myself relaxed in a race. Yesterday I was more like, I don't really care, but then I do care,
Yeah.
It's like completely bipolar. I mean, it's it's kind of crazy because I don't know myself like that. I know myself as very...
Did you give up within the race? So to put it into perspective...
No, even before the race. Like even before the race, I told myself, it doesn't matter. It's not that important. Just get it done, just finish it.
But would you then also go in it like aerobic, as in a bit easier, or would you or attack it from the start? Yeah.
No. I definitely went like way easier, but I try myself to I try to convince myself that this is actually the way to have a good race. It's like, oh, they're going out way too hard. You're gonna go out a little bit easier. You're gonna pick it up later, but later you're not gonna picking it up anyway. Yeah. So, that's the thing. It's like I'm definitely struggling with that mentally a little bit, to have like these two personalities right now, where on the one hand side is I tell myself, man, there's a reason why you retired from professional sport. It's because you don't want to do it like that for another 20 years.
Yeah.
Why do you try to make it like that then?
Yeah.
That's the first part. And the second part is like, there's this other triathlon dude racing. I want to be sub 1 hour. I want to be in the elite 15. I want to be a last chance qualifier. That's my chance to make it to the world championship. That would be awesome. Put that in your Instagram profile. Ironman world champ and High Rocks world champ. That would be amazing,
And
like that's completely.
And then on top of that, you can call yourself the hybrid king. But that's the paradox, of
if I do that, then I will like woo, woo, woo. Yeah, no. Yeah.
That is the mindset of that you can't do it half. That you can't. There. You also see with professional athletes that retire that sometimes they don't do any sports at all anymore, because if they do it, they can't do it for a little bit, and it's still. And also that nowadays, or not as nowadays, but you got a family, and I think that's also the hard bits about the last couple of years of your professional career in triathlon, that you need to combine getting a baby and you want to be there for that, but then triathlon asks you to travel a lot. I reckon that might be mentally also hard to combine.
I mean, that was also the reason why I think I did everything absolutely perfect with the way I retired.
Yeah.
It was just at the right moment, thinking about, how my kid, going to kindergarten now, sometimes you just can't avoid to get ill or something like that. I would freak out as a professional athlete, like it's so tough to do. And then also, if you are away from your family, you just want to be back home, like you think like you're missing out on everything, and you can't turn back the time, right? Mm-hmm. But when you are with your family, then you think like, oh, I need to get away from my family. I can't train like I need to, and my job is like to be very, very good in the sport. And you know how it is, like if you are fifth or you are first, that's like a 99% difference in payout.
I don't know how that is, but I can.
Yeah, but I know
online.
From the outside. I mean, you know it with Joe and you know some contracts. I bet so. Therefore, and then and that's the way to pay the diapers, right? And that's then you want to be away and train as hard as you can to make this count. And also there you can't turn back the time. You turn 40 one day, and you're gonna get spit out of this machinery, and it's so tough. It's so tough to bring this two together.
And it's also an extra factor of stress, something to worry about. About when you were younger, and you see that with the younger athletes, they're like stress-free. So when if it should be, so whether it comes from like family or someone being sick or having kids or financial troubles, all these factors, they give stress and can have a really big impact on performance.
Oh yeah, they have by far the biggest impact. For me, it's some people think they're gonna be happy when they achieve something in the sport.
Yeah.
I know from experience, like to achieve something in the sport, you have to be happy. I mean, it's not being happy in the sense of satisfied. That's not what I mean. But if you struggle like in your private life and you think like, oh, I just have to finish an Ironman, whatever, sub 9 hours, then I'm gonna be happy. It's not the case. It's not the case. You have to be happy, and then you're gonna succeed. That's the big thing. I mean, at least I think it was for me, and so yeah, it has a big impact. And I totally agree. Like when you're young and there's no obligations whatsoever, it's it's a lot easier in a lot of ways.
100%. That makes a huge difference. Now that you're away from that you do look at the sport and back at your career and at some races, what are some moments where you can laugh at? For example, wow, I was at the World Championships back then and I forgot my nutrition, or what were some like really goofy moments that you never really shared with someone because you thought it was a bit unprofessional?
Did I ever had something like that? I mean, I can remember, for example, racing in Miami 70.3, and so I had this like custom-made seat post. I was riding Shimano back then. I was pretty fresh, signed it with Scott, and I had this custom-made seat post with the Di2 battery in it and everything. And I forgot that at home, and there was like no way you get that somewhere in the United States.
So the whole seat and seat post?
The seat post, but the most important thing was like a custom-made Di2 battery integrated in the seat post. And I don't know if the Di2 came out back then like fairly fresh, but it was obviously that there was like no chance you'll get this somewhere in the United States. Even the seat post and the seat without the battery or something like that was almost impossible to get, at least not in Miami. And so my father and my mother-in-law, so I did some research on the internet. The race was like 3 days away or so, 4 days away, when I built a bike and realized I don't have it with me. They sent it, costed like $1,200.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it was basically like more or less hand
You gotta
delivered.
make it worthwhile then.
Yeah, I won the race.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, it was worth it, but yeah, I mean, then my wife made me like this whole list where I always had to cross everything before I left. And I done that until the end of my career, where I had this list where I always cross off everything I need for the race.
That is quite handy.
Yeah,
I think
I can 100% recommend it to anybody. Get a wife that does that for you. No, I mean, do a list and check it all off. But to be honest, like there's not a lot of like huge jokes or something like that, or things that kind of went completely
You were always
wrong.
quite disciplined, and
I never was outside of the sport,
Yeah.
but in the sport I was definitely like pretty organized and disciplined. Yeah, I mean, obviously like small stuff always happens, but
have you always been really, really geeky with the sport, as
Yeah.
in trying to find the next percenters? And I mean, of course,
man,
you gotta have to
you
win.
don't know me, I think. Yeah, I was probably the one that invented my marginal gains.
But what was the craziest stuff that you did, as in to come up with the ideas?
The craziest stuff. I mean, one of the stories that I don't know if I ever told that with a microphone on. I mean, that's the stuff you want to hear probably is. So we always did some aero testing, and at the beginning I was always testing with Lars Teutenberg, who is really a genius in this area. He's trailblazer, I would say. Smart dude, and just very hands-on. And I trusted him. So at that point, I had really a huge advantage in a lot of ways towards some of the other guys. And I mean, I was winning races not because I had the biggest power output, but I had the best CDA, rolling resistance, and friction data in the whole field by actually quite a good margin. And I didn't want to know anybody else that I'm not actually the strongest cyclist. I'm just the fastest cyclist, but fast is not just because you're the strongest. Now it's a completely different world out there. But back then it wasn't, and I didn't want to know anybody, let anybody know. So at one point we started testing with somebody else, and I knew like my data will instantly be all over the place because I didn't like 100% trusted anybody there.
Yeah.
So what I did was I used tubes, and I put glue in the tubes. So I, the glue that you use to put the
Oh yeah, not to paint the wall, but the I know what the word in Dutch is.
Yeah. It's like this very thick glue,
Yeah.
and it's not gonna dry very fast. So you mix it with water, and I'll have that little pump, and you load the pump in the glue, and then you put it in the tire. So therefore you fill the whole tube with this glue, and you can imagine like the rolling resistance goes up through the roof. So I tested it on the rollers back home, like to have an idea like how much more power I would need at certain speeds. So to calculate the CRR, rolling resistance data. So when I hit the track with these tires and wheels, like they saw something completely different than what I knew. Like they measured my CDA at like 0.24, something like that, and I knew like, okay, now I put my CRR number in there, the one that I know, and it's like way faster. So therefore nobody knew like that the setup was actually quite a lot faster.
And that was because you were working with new people at that time? So you were literally having sleepless nights and thinking like, I got to do something. I got to let people know that they can't have.
I mean, it's
How did you go up with the glue then? Like that you had to, because you can't screw the whole wheel up.
Yeah, I don't know where I read about it, but I think I read about it somewhere, and then I also used it when I was training with the group in training camps, because I just hated, like, I didn't want to ride in the front all day long when we were like 6 people. But when I was at the back, like, I was just like, fuck, this is not gonna go anywhere. Like, I'm pushing 130 watts, and that's just not getting me where I want to go. And so I was riding with the glue in the tires then for the whole training camp.
It's like an old school resistance wheel.
Exactly, yeah.
What was your training philosophy back in the days then? So would you say that your steady rides were really steady, or would you do easy rides at like 200 watts and like?
Training philosophy. It's a good
You've got
question.
the Norwegian method. What's the Kienle method? Was there one?
I think, to be honest, like the what made me really good is like I did a fucking lot of zone 3 training like really early on. Yeah, like
the LT ones.
Yeah, exactly. 4 hours and hours and hours. And nowadays you would say like this was like way too early, and I agree. Like this, I mean, I should have started doing it when I was 28 instead of being 22, and then doing like these 4-hour rides where you push 280 watts for 4 hours in training rides, or somewhere in that region. And we did it. I did it regular. When I look at that nowadays, it was like way too hard. I should have, do more VO2 max and more like base stuff, zone 1, zone 2 stuff.
Because you tired you out a lot.
Yeah, but the thing is, at that time I was able to handle the load, and it made me like really, really good, really fast. That's the thing. And then you think, oh yeah, I mean, I think what a lot of people don't understand nowadays with this polarized training system, where you have either like really intense or very low intensity training. At one point you have to meet in the middle. If you're not gonna fill that gap at one point, it's not gonna lead you anywhere. So at one point you have to do zone 3, zone 4 stuff a lot, or not a lot, but you have to do it. But it's also not helping you if you just do zone 3 or zone 4. But the thing is, if you wanna be fit fast, then you're gonna go into the middle. That's where you get the most bang for your bucks. But on a long term, this is not gonna help you, And that was, for me, it was very addictive, and that's the problem with if you do a lot of zone 3, zone 4 stuff is it becomes quite addictive, because you're always on the gas, you always feel kind of great. You're pushing the numbers, you're going fast, and you're gonna be very fit very fast. But on a long term, obviously, it wasn't probably the best.
But were you then you were riding then above Ironman power, right? Something like in between Ironman and 70.3.
Yeah, just a touch above Ironman power, or just on Ironman power, depending. Like some days it was a little bit lower, some days it was a little bit higher. But I wasn't really riding with a power meter. Back then,
just based on feel.
Heart rate.
And,
yeah.
If you do you still follow the sport now really closely, or do you try to take a space? Yeah, you do.
No, I do. I mean, I'm working as an expert commentator for German TV every now and then for for German for the big races, obviously, and then I'll do with Kick-Ass Sports. We have our own coaching business with Philip Seibt and Laura Philip.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm still involved, but not like 24/7 anymore. And then that's actually good and makes it more interesting for me.
Mm-hmm. Do you think the sport has changed a lot in its dynamics over the last 2 to 3 years since COVID?
I think it has. It's kind of crazy to think about it, but usually you would say a development is like very fast at the beginning of a sport, and with more money and more professional athletes and so on. At one point you reach like a certain plateau, and it's very tough to cross that plateau. With triathlon in the last couple of years, it was actually the absolute opposite. So we sort of like kind of reached that plateau, but then it went like a hockey stick upwards. It was, I think a lot of people were surprised by the development in the last 2-3 years, how the sport really put the afterburners on, how I look at it. But then it's also your own perspective, because you are struggling to get better, and everybody is starting to overtake you. You have the feeling everybody shifted into another gear. But yeah, I mean, look at the times and everything. I think I'm not wrong.
Yeah, and also there's like a lot more people nowadays. What I think, I mean, when I got into the sport in 2017, a pro field had something like 20 athletes, and you could be in the mix with a 1:17 half marathon. Well, look at the times. And I remember you had the battle with Gomez, Brownlee, and others there. They were Brownlee and Gomez, or Jan Frodeno, and they were all running something like in between 109 and 111. It was like, wow, you know, it's crazy. But nowadays, the whole top 15 runs 111.
Yeah, and like you said, back in the day, I mean, let's say 2018, 2019, you just had to travel far enough, you know, if you're ready to travel to New Zealand or so, and you're decently fit. Like, I would not say it's guaranteed that you win an Ironman, but if you would be on a level where you can do top 5, top 10 in Kona, you can win almost any other long course race relatively easy. Now it's like no chance anymore. When I retired, so my plan for retirement for the last year, I thought like, I'm gonna make a clean sweep year. Like, I'm gonna win every single race I'm gonna do. I mean, that was like, it wasn't impossible. The thing is, I knew I'm not gonna you know, attend world champs anymore. So no 70.3 world champs, no Kona, or no long course champs. The toughest one would have been Ross, obviously, to win, but I've done that 2 times before. So I thought it's gonna be piece of cake, because I'm just cherry picking like remote races more or less, and I'm gonna win all of them. I ended up winning one single one.
Which one was that again?
Zarautz triathlon.
Okay.
In Spain. I would definitely recommend it. It's an absolutely awesome race. One of the secret races not a lot of people know about, but the atmosphere is.
Is it like a bit like the German Allgäu triathlon, which is also a bit more of a cult?
But I mean, a lot of people know about that race. But Zarautz, I have the feeling like not so many people know about the race. At least not like traveling there from other countries to that race. Like, it's a lot of locals. I mean, they all know about the race, but yeah, it's really cool. Like, a lot of spectators. Yeah, not very, very hilly course, like very steep hills. Nice area. Yeah.
What before?
Basque country. It's really good for sport.
It's very nice. Yeah. It's something. I've got a couple of bucket races still left on the calendar. Before we, because you got to catch a train in like a bit more than half an hour. So let's round up with a couple of quick fire questions. So coffee or tea guy?
Coffee.
Yeah, coffee. You're early morning trainer or late in the evening? Night hawk or early in the morning?
Now it's whatever fits the schedule, you know.
During the career?
I would say night hawk, yeah.
Yeah, no 7 a.m. swims?
7 a.m. That would be actually quite doable, but I mean, Ben, if Ben Hoffman ever listens to this, or any Australian dude is probably laughing his ass off. I mean, they were swimming at 5 in the morning and having like 7K on the clock before 7. So
yeah, fair enough. You like the long rides or the easy long runs?
Both. Both. Yeah. I mean, it's whatever I can't do, I love the most. When I was injured running, I would have the most important thing would have been to be able to do a long, easy, nice run, and then when the weather's shitty and you're sitting on the trainer, you want to do a nice, long, easy ride outside.
Data-driven training or intuition?
Again, I can't decide what side I'm on. I mean, I'll do both, and I like both. Like the combination, I would say is nice.
Road or tri? If you're cycling.
Road.
Roadie. More
roadie.
free.
Yeah.
So we've always got a segment in the podcast called the Bullshit Buster, where we're talking about a certain thing that we think is unnecessary. Do you sometimes look at the sport and think, why do people do this? Or why is it can be a philosophy, it can be a product, it could be anything.
Behavior?
It could be behavior,
Okay.
It could be anything.
Yeah. So I've been to a lot of training camps, and I think the most unnecessary thing is like to walk with your cycling kit into the breakfast room in a hotel. It's like, come on, guys. Come on, man. That's not really necessary. Yeah, I mean,
What do you think is bad about it?
I've seen even worse, like wetsuit, and I mean, you mean why I don't like it, or
Why do you think, like, because it screams I work out, or
you always have to think about the atmosphere that creates that. Like, I mean, the next guy then comes like fully sweaty from the gym into the hotel breakfast place, and I think it's if you're like in a public place, like I mean it's public, but then I think it's just not nice for the atmosphere, for the other people that are there. Mm-hmm. And so I like what I learned as a triathlete is sometimes to be more selfish and not give a shit, what other people think. And I think that's actually important, but there is a certain threshold about it, and triathletes are crossing that quite often.
And it's also nice to just sometimes wear normal clothes and
yeah, because you're in your fucking bibs for another 6 hours, having the chamois cream on, and you're sitting there at the breakfast
what
table.
What is actually true is that it needs air. And with a really tight pant, you get bacteria and everything. That's why you also always need to put on a new, fresh cycling bib when you run a training camp. And you
after every ride, actually. After every ride. Not just after 3 or 4 rides, because then it's not fun anymore at one point.
Yeah, you get
Streuselkuchen.
Yeah, that's what it is. Anyway, if you want to watch I made a YouTube video about Kienle's high rocks that he did yesterday. It wasn't his best performance because he's already got a sub 1 hour in the high rocks pro, which is an amazing time. Anyway, that is so you get a little bit of insights how that went. Thanks for the chat. We could have been out here for a bit longer, but interesting to see how. Life after triathlon, or your thoughts on certain bits.
Thanks, man.
And
it was a pleasure to
enjoy
talk to you.
The rest of the Sunday.
Thanks for watching, guys.
Cheers. Thanks, everyone. This for me was a tryout podcast to see. If you let me know if you liked it, and then maybe I will continue and try to reach out to some other athletes and do. A bit more of I would say, psychological chat or chat about different stuff than talking about data or about race season, etc. A bit more about thoughts of a certain athlete or someone's background or like retirement, all that kind of stuff. So let me know. I'm really curious what you think of it. It's also the first time for me. I had to film it myself. And if so, let me know what other athlete you want to see in maybe the next podcast. Thanks for watching.